My biggest insight this week, I would say, is a clear understanding of how parents raise millennials and the disconnect between parents and millennials. So I would talk about parenting first. I agree with Simon that millennials were raised to think that they were extraordinary, they were special, that anything was possible. And I think that ended up actually hurting millennials in the end, because I understand the sentiment behind it to keep a kid determined, goal driven, shelter a little bit, keep from growing up too fast. However, that kind of parenting doesn't provide a safety net for when they have to face the real world, and it's cruel. So when millennials finally go out and have to get a job and they're out of school, and companies and people are telling them you're not special, their ego gets so crushed. It's been overfed for so long that it gets so crushed that I honestly think millennials don't really like fully recover from it. Because Simon mentions in the effects of instant gratification on millennials on that video that the best that millennials can hope for is that they're coasting through life, that everything's fine, work's fine, relationship's fine. And I would say that maybe a compromise or solution to this would be setting real expectations for children early on. I don't think parents would, and I don't think parents are going to crush their child's dreams just because why not, for the fun of it. But, I use the example, if your kid can't sing, wants to be a singer, it's almost worse if you make the kid believe that they can be a singer one day. If your teenager is going off into college and was terrible at math and wants to be an engineer, it's important you voice those concerns. So, and I actually think of it's not even a millennial product, but I do think of the play Death of the Salesman, the character of Biff. He is so annoyed with his father's grand delusions for him. He screams at him. He tells him, "I never got anywhere because you blew me so full of hot air I could never stand taking orders from anybody. I had to be a big boss shot in 2 weeks, and I'm through with it." And again, even though this play came out in the 40s, I think it speaks so true to the feelings that millennials have today. I think while the intent was to make your kid feel like a little engine that could, it actually ended up backfiring, and it just made millennials more frustrated when, again, reality slapped them in the face. I would say the other point that I brought up was how there is such a disconnect between parents and millennials that I really didn't realize. And I noticed it a lot in the growing up online. I understand parents' concerns with the internet, with bullying, with visiting inappropriate websites, with predators online. I can't even imagine what the parent of Ryan is going through. As the video said, Ryan was a boy that killed himself because of cyberbullying. So I understand the dangers with millennials' ability to access anything they want on the internet and how comfortable they are on it. But I thought that something that doesn't get brought up a lot, that got brought up in the growing up online that was great, was parents. It opened my eyes to how much, honestly, parents, I don't think, trust their kids. And how much they don't give them enough credit. Again, I understand that there's bad things out there, but it seemed like a lot of the parents immediately assumed that they would go to those bad websites. They'd go to a pornographic website, or they'd be talking to creeps online. However, when the video was actually showing up millennials and asking them questions about those ideas, they know they're smarter than the parents are giving them credit for. They understand the signs of a predator online. They know the websites that have bad content. One of the girls even said, if some user on AOL is going to ask me where I live and what's my address, I'm just going to delete them. And I think this lack of trust also leads to a sense of like an overbearing parent. Is that again, I don't have a problem with a parent monitoring their kids' internet use, but it needs to be in moderation, because it can become an extreme. An example they brought up that I think is an absolute extreme was one of the moms of a millennial shown on the documentary saw a video of a whole bunch of millennials on a train going to a concert. A lot of them were drinking, acting crazy, and her son was part of that video. And the mom actually got in contact with the parents of those kids on the video, and told them, basically ratted on the kids. Obviously had talked about their drinking and their behavior, but signed her kid's name. And I think that is overstepping a boundary that you really can't return from. And they didn't. The kid even admitted his mom and him have not the best relationship now, and doesn't want to share his life with her. And I think also what I wish parents would understand is, and again, it wasn't kind of grasping, they weren't kind of grasping it on the video, is that social media, again, I see the negatives of it, especially with the cyberbullying. But people can use it as an outlet for good. I think it gives people almost a way to reinvent themselves. I talked about Jess, who renamed herself on social media Autumn Eddowes, on MySpace, and she felt much better. She didn't feel comfortable. She said she was getting bullied, and actually social media allowed her to kind of express herself in a really creative way. And when her dad had taken it away, and her dad had taken it away, and in that instant she lost an identity. I will say that it was refreshing to hear some of the parents support millennials and their appreciation for the internet. Jess's dad actually ended up giving her basically back ability to make a MySpace, and supports her now. And I did think it was amazing. I could not believe he felt this way, but the dad of Ryan, the boy that killed himself, knows that, one, the internet's not a fad. It's here to stay. And two, it wasn't the internet. It wasn't entirely the internet that killed his son. And he he can't stop the internet. So I saw a lot of concerning things, some positive, but really my biggest takeaway was definitely getting a better idea of a parental perspective. And that's my thoughts. Thanks.